Okay, good evening. We'd like to call to order the meeting of the Lancaster Select Board for Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023. Although the agenda has us 1,000 years in the future, in the year 3023, at 6 p.m. We're going to call it to order at 6:06 p.m. I will note that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast through Sterling-Lancaster Community Television, and I will begin with a roll call vote. Ms. Turner?
Here.
Mr. Allison?
Here.
Mr. Kerrigan here. Okay, the first item on the agenda is review and take action on the Select Board meeting minutes of April the 18th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Gotcha the first second. All right, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Allison?
Aye.
And Mr. Kerrigan, aye. Okay. There is, yes? Oh, you're just actually clearing your throat. Okay, got it. We have a public comment period, which, if anybody's, tonight's going to be a whole public comment period, so anybody's welcome, but reminder, if you'd like to come to the microphone, name, address, and according to the Supreme Judicial Court, there's no holds barred, so. Seeing no one at the microphone, public comment period will end. We are going to move to administration, budget, and policy. First item is the MOU for the town of Lancaster and mass development relative to the DCAM property, and I turn it over to our town administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had sent the board a memo. As you know, we had been working with mass development for a number of months now on the DCAM property, and at the same time, at the same time had been researching some grants relative to the DCAM property, so I'm happy to report to you the final draft of a memo of agreement between the town and the Mass Development Finance Agency. Number one, they are going to be assisting us in doing some environmental assessments of the DCAM property. We also have been awarded a $35,000 grant for services relative to a Phase 1 environmental report and a structural study on some of the more compromised buildings that are there. That'll help us get data together to be able to form an RFP that hopefully can go out, and pending town meeting vote tonight, those things can happen simultaneously with us filing and hopefully passing the legislation.
Fantastic. Any questions for Kate?
First, thank you. I think Mass Development is going to be a great partner, and having the professional support paid for is always good.
Yes.
In my discussions earlier with different, and nothing specific, one of the questions that came up, and maybe we could discuss it with Mass Development, was do we want to do assessments ahead of time while marketing it, or would people rather do it themselves? For example, if we're doing 21Es, in other words, once we declare something, we're responsible for it. We can pass that on. Do we want to do that or leave that on the onus of the new owner?
Technically, we don't own it right now.
I know.
We're just assessing it, right?
Right, so the MOU is allowing us to do these site investigations before we decide whether we want to take ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So that if there is something that's found that would astronomically increase our holding costs, we could have an ability to say, gee, we'd really love to, but we're not in a financial position to do so.
And they have done some preliminary ones, DCAM already, that we can work with.
Yep, but they were in 2005, so some of the buildings, I'm assuming that was done around the time that they were decommissioning that power plant that was there, but some of the buildings since then just probably need to be re-looked at.
Yeah, they've deteriorated. Yes.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Kate. That is great progress. We're really excited about it. Hopefully the vote tonight goes well and we can keep this thing moving down the road. Thank you. Item 2.
Well, sorry,
What?
Mr. Chair. I need a vote
You do.
of the board, and to enter in, to allow me to enter
Oh,
into
into the
this.
MOU. Got it.
Because it's an intermunicipal agreement.
I move to allow Town Administrator Kate Hodges to enter into an agreement with
Mass Development Finance.
Mass Development for the purposes of establishing an MOU,
You.
Memorandum of Understanding.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Kerrigan, aye. 3-0-0. Go forth and MOU. Right, next item is open.gov platform update finances.
Right, so for a very long time, open.gov has been discussed, at least at the Finance Committee level, and my understanding is that the initial platform was purchased with CARES funds in 2021 by two town administrators ago, so not the interim town administrator, but my predecessor from there. And there was some time spent with staff and the finance division to put together some of the templates for that. When I started, shortly after we received a bill for this year's services for that, and when the finance director and I went on, it seemed that the tables that were devised there weren't lining up with the town, so we had some back and forth conversation, and it turns out that the procurement processes that are required by Mass General Law 30B were not followed, and so therefore it becomes a legal matter, and we have notified open.gov that we are not obligated to the contract terms, both monetarily or otherwise. In addition, the contract that was executed was signed by my predecessor. I cannot find a corresponding vote allowing that signatory authority from the board, but notwithstanding that, it also was improperly executed for a 3-year term with an automatic renew, which actually requires an active town meeting. And it actually also requires that the town prepay for services, which is also a violation of state law. So the contract is also null and void. So I guess the good news is we don't have to pay what we thought we were going to. And we will go from there.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yes, Kate has individually apprised us of this, and thank you for getting to the bottom of it. It's disturbing at best, and for the fact, I feel partially responsible in the sense that this came under my watch, and that's so hopefully that I learn from the history and make sure that we don't repeat this, because it sounds like there may be resolution to it, but at best it's taking up staff time, morale, and the other thing. My other question is, I'm more familiar with clear.gov, which is a powerful tool and is, I think, on the state bid list.
And less expensive.
And it's less expensive, yes. And I know it's very popular with a lot of things. My question, I guess, is we already have money sunk into this. I don't know how much money it's going to take to unwind everything. That's something that you can figure out and decide if it's worth it. We entrust you to do that. But having this kind of software support, this powerful tool which generates budget books so you don't have to kill yourself on them, and does all kinds of wonderful things, I think that we do need to support a platform like this. So if you could just tell us if, once you get through the analysis, this is relatively new, if this is worth staying with and addressing the bad procurement
Yep.
differently?
Yep.
Or if we want to look at clear.gov or another vendor.
Yep. I think our plan moving forward is to bring a variety of things to the board for you all to look at, and ranging from ClearGov, which is more economical, to, you know, something larger than that. But certainly just a couple of things. One, we don't have any town funds. It doesn't mean that it's not upsetting that CARES money was used, but there was no tax dollars, at least that went to this.
Local
We were
tax
able-
dollars.
No residential.
Local tax dollars, yes.
Local tax dollars, yeah. And second, I guess I would just say, while I appreciate, you know, you and Jason saying, you know, that you want to take ownership or whatever, I mean, I think that you trust persons in their positions to do their positions, and mistakes are made. You know, again, we won't know the length of this, but I guess I wanted to alert the board, number one, because we're obviously not using it, and number two, because we have issued an official letter to the company saying that we're not going to be paying.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
For the record, they have not responded to that letter yet.
Well, we'll wait to see what they say. Any further comments on this? Otherwise, next item on the agenda is what's happening in 43 minutes, the town meeting. Any other? That's just as needed.
Didn't know if there was anything you wanted to
Anything you all
discuss
would like to
beforehand,
discuss
if
prior
there's
to
anything.
town meeting?
I have some concerns and questions that I'm sure will get vetted out during town meeting, if that's what we prefer.
Entirely up to you. It's entirely up to you.
Well, I guess it's probably worth it to discuss. My understanding is that we can legally use ARPA funds. However, as we have discussed in the past, the board was going to, so legally we could defray this budget with ARPA funding, should we choose to. But the board had made a policy vote, which we haven't revisited, that we were going to use that for capital.
Yes.
It is late in the game to discuss defraying this budget, but I think there was a lot of confusion about whether or not it was possible to use this funding. And the advice that I got from administration and finance was that, yes, we could, and I shared that.
If you chose the designation.
If we chose the designation.
That's the linchpin here.
Right, right.
But it's unclear.
Right.
We didn't choose the designation, someone else did.
Right, I understand, and it's back to the former discussion.
Right.
But that the designation can be, it's more of a formality, and that's, I think, two issues. We do have to deal with that issue, just like we had to deal with the open.gov issue. And we're going to let Jason be the liaison to that.
No amount of hot yoga will help that.
But, so yes, it's certainly more complicated, but there's been a lot of confusion about it as far as the ability, whether or not we can use it. It's clear that we can. Whether or not we should
Right, we
is a
can if
different.
we pick that designation, right.
Right,
So
but we
I guess
can pick
it
that
bottles
designation.
down to, if the board were asked back when you had to choose the designation, and would the board have, and this is sort of rhetorical, but would the board have chosen to make that designation, and would the board have authorized whomever it was that was the town administrator at that time to do so? Neither of those things happened, so
It's
I'm
true.
the one that decides to make a comment.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Chair, may I make?
Yes, you may.
Here, do you want this?
Alex, thank you for bringing this up. I'd like to say that I was never asked about the designation as a board member, and I don't know how it was made at the time. And if someone asked me, did the select board choose that designation, my answer would be the select board did not choose that designation.
Correct, my recollection is the same, and you were chair, so you would have been asked first, hopefully, but I don't think anybody was.
Sorry, I was choosing my words very carefully.
But I guess
I wasn't.
I guess the larger question is, had we been, and had we known these are one-time dollars, which is the conversation we had last summer, would we, and I wasn't on the board at the time, that this designation conversation didn't happen, Would we have continued to do what we did? And I would hope we would have. That one-time dollars for one-time things.
And on that, it's a bigger conversation. I probably typically agree with you, but in this case, going forward, I think for me, it's a different time. Although I did and still do think that in general,
Yeah.
one-time dollars for one-time things, yes.
I just think in this instance, if we used it for this instance, we would next year be facing a $1.6 million override, and we'd have $1.2 million less to put into capital, and so we'd be a net negative across the board.
Yes.
It would fix the problem tomorrow, but not for years to come. So,
Well, yeah, we can, I guess we can save that debate for if it comes up in the warrant.
yeah. All
But
right. Anything further?
Nope.
All right.
no, I guess just in follow-up to the last two, in jest, I'm assuming that you're working on that, on those issues, because there's certainly administrative issues that have,
Yeah, yes, yes, on that part, yes. We are not using the consultant. So if in fact we would like to enter into an agreement with an ARPA consultant, I will be bringing forward firms who do that and proposals that you all can review and vet and have that discussion on the record. So it's as if it's new.
Brand new day.
New news for everyone.
Let's discuss that perhaps at our next regularly scheduled meeting, which will be held on Monday, May 15th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
I would just add that if the board wishes to change its position on the use, because there was some conversation back in 2021, perhaps, or maybe early 22. When did I start? It was in January of 22, and it looked like there was some types of votes on how to use it, how to use the ARPA funds. You may want to revisit those votes and just choose something different.
I looked back on those when we were doing, now the discussion, particularly the Facebook discussion has been coming up. And I know we had talked about using things for water pipes, for example, and lead risers and so on. And we had general discussions about how to use it, and this was pre-Kate, pre-Steve. But I don't think that we voted those.
Okay.
And we had a hard time, we were trying to get more information. So at least I couldn't find any recorded votes.
Okay.
And in fact, I think in concept, and I was probably the most vocal one about using it for capital. However, as I said, I think there are extenuating circumstances now that would influence me, but.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything further on that item? Hearing none. In communications, reminder, we have an annual town election on Monday, May 8th, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. People can vote in the Town Hall auditorium. Hearing no new business.
My new business, could I just thank the Finance Committee for their participation and vigilance in trying to keep track of our budget and items such as this. They were very good.
Great. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Kerrigan? Aye. 300.